maybe, or maybe it's just that we've just been so, our life in the modern world is so comfortable that we're not fighting for our very sovereignty anymore.
Yeah.
That sovereignty has become pockets. It's become pockets of personal revolutions as opposed to one united cause, right? It's sort of, it's become it's become a global movement of Indians taking office in different parts of the world. I also don't understand why people really project all kinds of hopes onto Rishi Sunak or anyone of Indian origin who ends up in American office. They assume that that person is going to change their lives, and that never ends up
I'm
happening.
really glad you mentioned Rishi Sunak because it ties into what I was saying to you. Look at British politics. It's a classic example of a non-serious politics, right? Look at the joke that their politics is for the last many years.
Hmm.
Prime Minister after Prime Minister keeps popping up. One Prime Minister comes, the press says that she's like cabbage. Then everybody is looking whether she will outlast this cabbage. Liz Truss. There's some timer is put in front of cabbage.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Will the cabbage, wilt away first, or will the Prime Minister go? Another Prime Minister, a complete joke, during COVID is partying and chugging alcohol with his people.
Boris Johnson?
Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a big scandal. Then that scandal, then everybody's talking about it. Then he's trying to lie about that scandal. I mean, is this the behavior of mature people? Their entire politics has become a joke. New guy comes. It's ridiculous. Now there are riots happening all across the UK. Why? Because some guy went and stabbed 3 children, 3 little girls who are of the age of 6 years, 9 years and something. Yesterday also somewhere in London, some guy came and stabbed a woman. And I mean, the police, I mean, the funniest thing is when we were growing up in Calcutta, we used to read these old stories that the Scotland Yard and British police are some of the best in the world, They are so good, they're so tough. And today the videos are full of mobs chasing and the British police running away. So it's a classic example of a society which has become a non-serious society, right? And you never want that to happen to your country.
As a post-colonial nation, what do you think, Hindol, we can do to instill in us this kind of sovereignty that colonial nations have always had? Like, I often think the British was ruled by no one. It was subjugated to no one. It was just the British Empire, right? We were never an empire. I mean, like, we had many different kingdoms. We were never one Indian empire, like one country under one man or one head of state. So as a post-colonial nation, what do you think we can do to completely eradicate this kind of subjugation? That's still, if the subjugation isn't on a constitutional level, that subjugation still exists in the minds of some of us who feel like that the West is superior, that the white man is stronger, and that freedom or expression must come at the white man's terms.
So look, first we have to leave aside this idea that there was no India before 1947. This is the classic colonial trope. The British wanted to explain this to us so that if we understand and this is drilled into our heads, then again they'll be able to say, look, we gave you your country. Before the British, there was no unified India. We unified your country. This is a classic colonial trope. Yes, we didn't have, in fact, even empires. We had the great Magadha Empire, even the Mughal Empire, had a large swath. And there are many, you look at the Gupta period and so on and so forth. But what we had, was what our great saints understood. We had pilgrimages. Through the footsteps of pilgrim, our nation was defined. That's why the Adi Shankaracharya travels from shrine to shrine, north, east, west, south. It is through the footsteps and those shrines that the commonality, cultural commonality of India comes through, right? Long before, the Islamic invasions, long before the British came to India, the commonality of India was never political. The commonality in India was always spiritual. That's why you have, Vaishnavism in the south, in the east, in the north, in the south. You have Shaivism in the south, in the east, in the north. That's why every great saint of ours walked the length and breadth of our country. Think about the Adi Shankaracharya. Think about Swami Vivekananda. Length and breadth of the country. Right? That there is an inherent unity in the country. And that unity, you think of any great spiritual master in our country, they have always argued that the unity of our country was built not using the sword, not through political power, but through the footsteps of pilgrims, through the idea of spirituality that connected us from north, south, east, and west.
Today, in our conversation, you've mentioned the word motherland a lot.
Yeah.
I often read about the word motherland in books, and usually books about patriotism and Indian history.
Yeah.
But I don't hear motherland in common parlance. I don't hear my friends talk about India, our motherland. That idea of treating the country as a mother or instilling it with this kind of a matriarchal pride is so rare that when you talk about it, you rise up from looking at India as an economic power, as a soft power. You cease to look at it in geopolitical terms, and it becomes a personal relationship with the landmass that you occupy. It moves away from the strictly geopolitical, the strictly diplomatic, to an otherworldly, ethereal country that you belong in, and that's the sort of thing I will take away from today's conversation.
No, and that's very important. Let me say this. This is what we have missed, right? Look, one of the great things that the West wants to teach us is that communities mean nothing. The family means nothing. The extreme capitalism and extreme communism has one thing in common. The family means nothing. Everything is the state. You're an individual, you have a relationship with the state.
Right.
Whereas the Indian way of looking at it is that the family is at the center of everything. Community is at the center. If only you think of your country as the motherland, you will step out of your home in Mumbai and say, look at the state of our roads. Why don't we fix it? This cannot be done only by government. I'm not trying to say government doesn't have a role. Of course, government has a huge role. And, cities should have their elected government. It's a whole different conversation about how civic, behavior should be fixed. But if people care about their country, they will care. Tell me in Delhi, why can't we fix this one problem that the air has become difficult to breathe in winter?
Yeah.
We can't because nobody cares. We keep saying government will do it. But the people do not take... You ask the farmers of Punjab also and Haryana also, and they will say, we are also breathing the same thing. You're also dying. I mean, It makes no sense. So that sense that this land belongs to us and it's where we come home. This is the land where we come home. Unless we instill these values to newer generations, the future of India is bleak. But I have great faith because I think there is a renewal of all these ideas, and more younger people are willing to listen, like yourself, for instance. And I do hope, through them, a new generation and multiple new generations will understand why India is important. Look, India is a unique country. I want to leave this thought with you. Think about it. All the ancient empires and civilizations are gone. Rome is gone, right?
Egypt is
gone. All of this is gone. The only civilization that remains unbroken is India. How do we know that? The Gayatri Mantra you might be saying in your house, your mother might be saying in your house today, was said at the banks of Kashi 5,000 years ago. That's our unbroken tradition. And if we lose that, it's much more than any material loss. So people have to understand that what are we defending? We are not defending some landmass alone. We are defending an unbroken civilizational culture. And that culture belongs to each person in India. It doesn't matter what language they speak, what they wear, what they eat, what is their religion. Doesn't matter. It's a common heritage.